Hi, I'm Dave Maynard, and this session we're going to talk about prophecy probability. And what I mean by that is this: if the Christian God exists, then he should know what's going to happen in the future. Isaiah chapter 46 verse 9 and 10 says that. In fact, Isaiah chapter 41 verses 21 through 23 issues a challenge to everyone. It says, "Declare to us the things to come. Tell us what the future holds, so that we may know you are gods." In fact, Deuteronomy chapter 18 verse 20 through 22 gives the test of a prophet, and it says that if an Israeli or Jewish prophet predicts something and it doesn't come to pass, kill him. Wow, that's serious. I wonder if other religions took that seriously. Actually, other religions rarely give specific predictions or prophecies. The Bible gives about 700 prophecies in all. Way more than any other religion by a long shot. Now, what kind of prophecies does it give? Well, there's basically three types. There's a short-term prophecy. That's when a prophet consistently predicted things in the very near future, and they happened. That established them as a prophet. But one single mistake would not only discredit that prophet, it would be grounds for immediate execution. An example of a short-term prophecy is from 2 Samuel chapter 12 verses 7 through 14. I wonder, with that kind of a test, I don't imagine there were a lot of Israelites wanting to be prophets. I just don't think so. And prophecy was not only predicting the future, it was also declaring the Word of God for the present. But they knew you were a prophet by your predicting a short-term prophecy where they could see if it was true or not. Let's take an example from a generation ago in America. Jean Dixon. She predicted that in 1960 a Democrat would, one, run for office and die in office. Okay, that's a 1 in 2 chance. The chance of number one, that could only be a Democrat or a Republican, so there's a 1 in 2 chance, a 50% chance of somebody running for office. The chance of number two, that they would die in office, that'd be about a 40% chance, or 4 chances in 10. Because a lot of presidents have died in office, or a fair number. So if you took those two together and combined them together, you would have a 10 to 20% chance of being right. Okay, you can see now that the more prophecies you add to the mix, the less chance you have of being right. So she made other predictions, though, that didn't come true. And these usually, I mean, in the press, they always tell you about the predictions that did come true. They don't tell you about the ones that didn't come true. She predicted that World War III would start in 1958. She predicted that Jackie Kennedy would never marry again once John had died. She also predicted there would be a cure for cancer in 1967, the year I graduated from high school. Yay! She also predicted that there would be peace on earth in the year 2000. And she also predicted that the Vietnam War would end in 1966, and for America it ended in 1975. If my memory serves me correct, memory alert, because I don't have a real good memory, her percentage of correct predictions were about 26%. And that's about the same as someone who just took an educated guess. You have a 1 in 4 chance of being right. So there were short-term prophecies where the Jewish prophet had to be 100% right, or he could have been executed. That's how serious they took prophecies. One other thing. Have you ever, I haven't kept up to date on who the modern prophet is. I know for a while there was a pet psychic who could you know, be around your cat or your dog or your pet, and she could tell you what the pet was feeling. And it was just really, it was kind of, I watched it a couple times. I thought it was really funny. Some of the things she said, well, you know, your cat isn't being really friendly with you because she's hurt that you're not spending time with her, and you need to spend time with her and all that. But there was one guy who was around for a long time and still may be around, and his name was Jonathan Edwards, and he was a medium. Now what a medium is he'll go and a bunch of people will come to see him in an auditorium, and then he will have several people come up. And this one lady came up when I was watching it one time, and she said, and she was an older lady, and she said, you know, I treated my husband really bad in life. I put him down a lot. I wasn't very loving to him. I was really nasty to him. And then he died. And then I realized afterwards, wow, he was really a great man, and I really did love him. I just didn't know how to express it. And now he's in the hereafter. And, you know, could you please tell him that I really did love him and I really did appreciate him, and I'm sorry, basically I was a schmuck our entire married life. Those are my words. And Jonathan Edwards just kind of, okay, yes, I'm communing with your husband right now, and yes, he forgives you. He knew you had a rough childhood, and he's just waiting for you in the hereafter so you can continue to have a wonderful relationship. And of course, the lady is just crying, and I really felt sorry for her. But she's just crying, and because she's been forgiven, and just once, I'd like to see Jonathan Edwards say, no, he's still pretty ticked at you. I mean, he always, at least the times I watched him, always gives a very comforting, forgiving, soothing message. Anyway, I wonder if there was any, there's no way to test him, I guess, but I can't imagine that he would be a medium if he knew that he ever got something wrong. He would be killed. But anyway, short-term prophecy is one type of prophecy. A long-term prophecy is another type, and these were usually hundreds of years in the future before they were fulfilled. An example of this type of prophecy is the city of Tyre in Lebanon in Ezekiel chapter 26. That prophecy about Tyre, there were several different parts of it, and they were fulfilled over several hundred years, but the entire prophecy was fulfilled. And then there are end times prophecies, and those are prophecies related to the end of history as we know it, or they are related to prophecies that will come to pass right before the second coming of Christ. The problem with this kind of prophecy is it can't be proven until the end of time. But the confidence gained from the short and the long-term prophecies should give us hope that these end times prophecies will be reliable. Now, for a prophecy to be reliable, it's got to contain three factors. One, it should be sufficiently specific enough that would lead a reasonable person to believe that, hey, it couldn't happen just by chance or by educated guess. Number two, it should be authenticated by one source and confirmed by another source that would receive no benefit from the confirmation of the prophecy. That would eliminate contrived prophecies for somebody's financial benefit or for their benefit. So both, number three, both the original and the confirming ones must be reliable sources. That eliminates one person making a few correct predictions while missing many others, i.e. like Gene Dixon. Now to properly explain prophecy probability, I'm going to have to refer you back to one of the other sessions where I had to teach you some math. And again, I imagine the rapturous joy that must be coursing through your veins right now. Great Scott, we're going to learn math. Oh, good. The number 10 can be expressed by an exponent, 10 to the first power. And if you look in your notes, I talk about that. That's 1 followed by 1 0. The number 100 can be expressed as 10 to the second power, or 1 followed by 2 zeros. The number 1000 can be expressed by 10 to the third power, or 10 cubed, or 1 followed by 3 zeros. And you can go up and up like that. The number 1,000,000 is expressed by the number 10 to the sixth power, or 1 followed by 6 zeros. The number 1,000,000,000,000 is expressed by 10 to the 12th power, or the number 1 followed by 12 zeros. Now, the whole U.S. government takes in less than $3 trillion in tax money each year. It might be higher than that now. That might be an old figure, but I mean, it's still just trillions of dollars that it takes in. I think our whole economy is not bigger than $12 trillion, which is amazing. So if you have 1 chance in 100 of winning something, you have 1 chance in 10 to the second power. If you have 1 chance in 1,000,000 of winning something, you have 1 chance in 10 to the sixth power. If you have 1 chance in 1,000,000,000,000 of winning something, you have 1 chance in 10 to the 12th power. Okay, great. Now you're a mathematical expert in exponents. I think I've mentioned before that scientists have defined the chance of something never happening, in other words, 0 chance of it happening, as 1 chance. If you have 1 chance in 10 to the 53rd power, that's the number 1 followed by 53 zeros. It will never happen, ever. There are almost 700 prophecies in the Bible. Ralph O. Muncaster took 118 of them, and he just said, let's assume there's a 1 in 10 chance of each of them happening as predicted. Realistically, I think it would be more like 1 in 100 chance, 1 chance in 100 of it happening, but he just said, let's be conservative, 1 chance in 10. 118 prophecies happening exactly as they should have happened, or as they were predicted to happen, would be if they happened by chance, would be 1 chance in 10 to the 118th power. The chance of this happening is so far beyond zero, it's not even. Nobody in their right minds would bet against that. And that's only 118 of the almost 700 prophecies in the Bible that have come to pass. There's a book called The Skeptic's Search for God by Ralph Muncaster, and if you look on pages 141 to 194, he talks about that. There's also his big book that's about this thick, and it's called Examine the Evidence, and if you look on pages 285 to pages 365, he talks about that also. Now I want to introduce you to 2 men. Peter Stoner, and I think Peter Stoner's passed away now, but he had his master's degree. He was the department chairman of mathematics and astronomy at Pasadena City College until 1953, and he is the chairman of the science division at Westmont College from 1953 to 1957. Also, Dr. Robert Newman, he earned his PhD in astrophysics, yay, that's my interest, at Cornell University in 1967. He is a postdoctoral fellow at the Bartol Research Foundation of the Franklin Institute and an associate professor in physics and math at Shelton College. Both of those from 1968 to 1971. And then in 1972, he was the STM at the Biblical School of Theology and an associate professor of New Testament at the Biblical School of Theology from 1971 till his retirement. I believe he's still alive. But in 1944, Professor Stoner gave 600 of his statistics students, and Pasadena City College, by the way, is just a regular city college. in Pasadena. He gave 600 of his students the task of finding the chance that one person could fulfill 8, just 8, of the Old Testament prophecies of the coming Messiah. They came up with one chance in 10 to the 17th power. That is one chance in the number 1 followed by 17 zeros. We have a number for that. It's one chance in 100 quadrillion. To illustrate this chance, that it could happen by chance, take 100 quadrillion silver dollars, 10 to the 17th silver dollars, throw them into Texas. They would fill the entire state of Texas 2 feet high, about this high. Mark one of them, throw it into the bunch. Blindfold a person and have him pick out that one silver dollar. Would you bet that they would pick out the marked one? Not very likely, is it? Again, scientists have defined the chance of something never happening, of something as being impossible if it has less than one chance in 10 to the 53rd power. So what Professor Stoner then did is he picked 48 Old Testament messianic prophecies. And he said, what's the chance of one person fulfilling 48 of these prophecies? Now, there are over 300 messianic prophecies in the Old Testament that Jesus completely fulfilled. But just 48 of these prophecies, the chance of one person fulfilling 48 of these prophecies, and the 600 students came up with one chance in 10 to the 157th power. That's one chance in the number 1 followed by 157 zeros. That's just mind-boggling. The number's incomprehensible. If you could count 250 numbers per minute, it would take you almost 7 trillion years to reach 10 to the 157th power. I've given you, for other examples on what Professor Stoner did with his statistics students, I've given you a website to go to that lists. He actually wrote a book where he wrote numerous Old Testament prophecies that happened, like to the city of Tyre in Lebanon. That's one chapter, and then another chapter he wrote on the probability of Jesus Christ fulfilling X number of messianic prophecies. But those were just messianic prophecies. What about all the other prophecies in the Bible? It's been said that there are, well, some people have said 660 total prophecies in the Bible. Some people have said it's close to 700, but only 500 of them haven't been fulfilled yet. No one I know of has calculated what the probability of these, I'm sorry, I said that wrong. Let's say there are 660 total prophecies in the Bible. Over 500 of them have already been fulfilled. So there's only a little over 100 left to be fulfilled, and those were all end-time prophecies. I know of no one that has calculated what the chance of over 500 prophecies being fulfilled is, but I can bet you this, it's ridiculously past one chance in 10 to the 53rd power, which is impossibility. In regards to these fulfilling prophecies, the Bible is unlike any other book in existence. No other book comes anywhere close to predicting all this where it was literally fulfilled with this kind of proof. Don't you think you can trust that the Bible is the Word of God? And don't you think you can trust that God with your life? Well, that ends this session. We'll see it at the next session. Bye-bye.